Hello Year 5, I hope you're all doing really well. This is Friday's maths task and I would like you to apply everything you have learnt this week and everything you already knew about perimeter to today's task. Now when you read today's task it might seem a little bit tricky, so I really hope this video helps explain that once we get started and we do a couple together, it might make the rest of the task a little bit easier for you. Now I hope all of you now know at this point that to find the perimeter of a rectangle is by adding up the lengths of all the sides. Now not all the sides are always labelled, because if one side of a rectangle is labelled, we should know that this is equal because these lines are parallel. So this side is 5 and this side is 7. So to find the perimeter, what we would do is we would add the length to the width, and then we would add this length to this width. So you could say that to find the perimeter of a rectangle is by adding 7 and 5 and 7 and 5, and that's, I'm sure, how lots of you would find the perimeter of this shape. You would do 7 add 5 add 7 add 5, go all the way around the outside, and that would give you 24 meters. So as you can see, this is not really to scale. My rectangle is not really 7 meters by 5 meters long, but I must include the unit of measure in my answer. So that is one way that you could find it. However, because we are now getting closer to year 6, we need to start using some really, more in-depth mathematical calculations. So another way of writing L plus W plus L plus W is to say that the perimeter, which is going to be P, can be found by adding the length and the width together twice, because there's 2 lengths and there's 2 widths. So we could say that one way to find the perimeter is by adding the length and the width and then multiplying that by 2. Now I'm going to put brackets around this part of my equation, because otherwise it could be misunderstood that you add one length to 2 widths. It looks like you do width times 2 add length, when actually we need 2 lengths and 2 widths. So by putting brackets here, people now know for sure that you are adding the length and the width and then timesing that whole answer by 2. So this is what we are going to be using today, a little bit more in depth, a little bit more of a next step. So I think it'd be really useful is if you wrote this down on the piece of paper you are using today, that to find the perimeter of a rectangle, so P is for perimeter, is by adding the length and the width together and then multiplying by 2. So take a moment to write that down, because that is going to be really useful today. And now I'm going to show you the next part of our learning. Okay, so for the next part of our learning, I am going to give you the perimeter of this rectangle, and this time I'm going to ask you to tell me what the lengths could be. So we're doing it in reverse. Normally I give you the length of the shape and you have to tell me the perimeter, but like I said before, now we're getting towards the end of year 5, going into year 6, we need to make it a little bit more tricky. So sometimes we are given the perimeter and we have to find the lengths. Now for these types of questions, there could be more than one possible answer. So P has now been replaced with 20. We know our perimeter. So 20 is the length plus the width twice, because we have this length and this length, and then we have this length and we have this width, sorry. So by taking away the times in by 2, we could say that we know that all of this adds up to 20, but half of the rectangle, so one length and one width, equals 10. So if we divide this by 2, we're effectively crossing this out and removing it. But if we divide this by 2, we have to divide this by 2. So what we could say is 10 is equal to length plus width. Because if this length and width add up to 10, then this length and width add up to 10, and 10 add 10 will give us our perimeter of 20. So what we now need to know is, what we now need to find out is if this length and this length is 10, what could those measurements be? So we need to think of two different numbers that add up to 10. So this could be 7 centimetres and this could be 3 centimetres. And let's see if that gives us a perimeter of 20. 7 add 3 is 10. 3 add 7 is 10. 10 add 10 is 20. So that would work. So our length could be, let me just move the board slightly. Our length could be 7 centimetres and our width could be 3 centimetres. Is that the only answer that can be correct? No. We know that there's other numbers that add up to 10 as well. So although the perimeter is 20, we are just finding half of that. Okay, so we're halving our perimeter and we're halving our calculation, and then we're doubling it at the end to get our perimeter. What else makes 10? You could say 8 and 2. 8 add 2 is 10, add 8 is 18, add 2 is 20. So we could have a length of 8 centimetres and a width of 2 centimetres. Is that our only possible answers? No. I think there's another one. We could have 9 and 1. Now, although this doesn't look like it's 9 centimetres and 1 centimetre, so as you can see, this side would be a lot shorter if it was really 1 centimetre. But again, remember, it's not to scale. And theoretically, it could be a possible answer. Are there any more answers that you can think of? Well done if you said 6 and 4. Now, it's always good to remember that the largest number of the two goes against the longest side. We would never have 4 against the longer side and 6 against the shorter side. So another answer could be 6 centimetres and 4 centimetres. Now, some of you may be saying, what about 5 and 5? Now, that's incorrect, because that would make a square. And if you've been told that you are looking at a rectangle, that means that one side is longer than the width, or one width is longer than the length. So unless it tells you it's a square, or it doesn't tell you it's a rectangle, we can't have 5 and 5. So I think we have found all our possible lengths and widths, and we're going to continue with this exploration with our next task. So it might be really useful to pause the video now and draw, using a ruler, a rectangle. Okay, I need you to draw a rectangle before our next task. Get ready. Now, well done for those of you who have stuck with me up until this point. I'm actually going to reward you by helping you with the first question. Okay, so don't tell anyone that actually I'm going to help you with question number 1. Okay, so question number 1 is, a rectangle has a perimeter of 42 metres. Right there. The perimeter is 42 metres. And I'm actually going to give you the length. Now the length is going to be 12 metres. Okay, so we know that this is 12 metres and we know that this is 12 metres. And this is the side that we have to find the measurement of. Okay, so we know our perimeter is 42. And we know that if we add 12, which is our length, to our width, which we don't know yet, so I'm going to use a W, and times that by 2, we're going to get 42. So when you know the value of a letter, this is algebra, when you know the value of a letter, you can replace that letter with the value. Because effectively, we are mathematicians and we want every value to be a number, not a letter. Our job is to find the value of these letters, so there are no letters left in the equation. So, where do we start? Well, we know that length plus width times 2 is 42. Now if we removed the times in by 2 part and we removed that by dividing it by 2, so we go back to nothing, it means we have to do it on this side. Remember, when we do this with fractions, it has to be balanced. So if we're just looking at one length and one width, that's going to be half of 42, isn't it? Because half of 42 is going to be this side and the other half is going to be this length and width. So we need to find half of 42. So half of 42 is 21. So we know that 21 equals 12 plus W, plus question mark. So 12 add something is 21. What is the difference between 12 and 21? Well done, it's 9. So actually now we can replace this with a 9. So let's see if this is right. I think if my perimeter is 42, I think if I did 12 plus 9 times 2, which is the same as the formula I asked you to write down at the beginning, I've got it right. Let's see. 12 plus 9 is 21. 12 plus 9 is 21. Add them together, 42. There we go. Another way you can check is by doing length plus width plus length plus width. Just double, triple check. 12 add 12 is 24. Add 9 is 33. Add 9 is 42. So what we are doing today is we are using what we know about perimeter to know that one length plus one width equals half the perimeter. So if we just times it by 2, we find the whole perimeter. So if we're given the perimeter, half it to begin with, and then you can use that knowledge to try and find what half the rectangle is, and then you can just complete that by timesing it by 2. So if I was just to help you with the next question, for example, let's just say, bear with me while I just work this out. The next question, question number 2, I'm not going to give you the answers, but I'm going to get you started. A rectangle is 7 centimetres wide. So it might help you to have a rectangle drawn, and then if you're using pencil, rather than drawing a whole new rectangle each time, you could just rub out the length and change them, and then you can have your answers staggered. So you could have question 1 here, and then question 2 could be underneath. So your answer for question 1 would be 9, and then you could do it that way rather than drawing a new rectangle every time. So for question number 2, the rectangle is 7 centimetres wide, and the perimeter is 34 centimetres. So we don't know this length here. We know this length here. We don't know this length here. So remember, if we have 34, we've then got the ability to find half the perimeter, which is just one length on one side. So if we have 34, that's 17. So we know 7 plus this number here equals 17. Now I think you could do that. So I'm going to leave you with that question, and I hope that helps with the rest of your tasks today. And as always, please email me if you've got any questions or if you'd like me to double check anything. Good luck, and I hope you have a lovely weekend. Bye guys.